Hey everyone, this is Sab Alberto and we are live in Dubai. So today we have very special guest with us, he's a very high influencer figures in UK hip hop music, and he's a journalist and a founder of record labels. So we would like to welcome to our show Dan Greenpeace. Welcome
Dan
to the
the
show.
man, what's going on, man?
Hey fellas, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you please introduce yourself, how you entered to the hip hop space?
Specifically hip hop?
Yeah.
Professionally or just generally?
Let's start with who's Dan?
Who's Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright, well I guess let's start with a musical journey.
Yes.
I got into music because my parents were into music, and like many families, maybe not so much now. Actually no, I mean now it's kind of cool again to have a vinyl turntable in your house, but for probably the last 20 years it hasn't been. But I grew up in a musical family, or not in terms of like professionally musically, but music loving family, and there was always a vinyl turntable, and there was always a kind of fairly modest record collection. My parents were into very different music. My father was into like the Beatles, pretty standard for any family in the 60s, 70s in the UK. And my mother was more into sort of R&B, Booker T and the MGs, Jimmy Smith, that kind of sound. I was kind of grew up always hearing music, listening to music, surrounded by music, and I guess I just kind of, as a kid, I didn't really know what I really liked music-wise until maybe, I don't think you really form any musical taste until you sort of 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
I think it's earlier now because you've got access to YouTube and things
Right.
like that.
But I think even with that, it's just the general purpose of you kind of finding your identity around that time, like what you actually love. Because before that, it's just the influence of your parents, or your older siblings or something. So I agree.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I always grew around seeing vinyl records, and then I was born in '71. So by the time kind of hip hop and rap kind of emerged, it was around when I was about 10 or 11, so late 70s, certainly early 80s, before living in the UK, before you kind of see elements of hip hop and rap being represented on TV, whether it's the Sugar Hill Gang on a really more commercial level, or there was documentaries coming out of, America on, breakdancing culture or graffiti or music or whatever.
Right.
And I guess like sort of seeing vinyl around the house and the turntable, then suddenly getting into hip hop, and then, you're seeing the DJs scratching the vinyl and playing with vinyl, and there's like the notion of a DJ. I'm like, oh well, they use what I've got in my house, and they play records and what I've got in my house, So you start to experiment, So I used to make these kind of pause mixtapes. I mean, kids these days have got like laptops. You can make music on your iPhone.
Right.
But then you had this kind of primitive tape cassette player. You had a vinyl turntable, but you could record from the vinyl onto the cassette deck. And I remember the cassette deck we had in the family house was very, very precise. The pause button was very precise. So if you're recording something, you pause it, it was like splicing a piece of tape. It was that accurate. Yeah. So I'd make kind of what are called like loop tapes, just taking bits of records, recording the little part of the record that I liked, pressing pause, playing it again, and then you eventually ended up with like a 20-minute loop of the same drum break or organ break or sample or whatever.
Wow.
And I remember when Shaka Khan and Grandmaster Mally Mel, they did a track called I Feel For You, and it started off like Shaka Khan. I thought that was wild, So I was like, I looped that little bit for like 20 minutes, never getting bored of it, but splicing it and recording it. And so what I'm trying to get at is, joining all the dots, around that age and experiment. What I was essentially doing was producing, I was kind of creating music. I was, in a very primitive way, but that's all we had.
Right.
It wasn't until I was maybe, some 10 or 15 years later that I eventually, in some capacity, got to record music in a recording studio or whatever it is. So anyway, to answer your original question, how did I get into it? I mean, that's literally how I got into it, just kind of experimenting and discovering and being exposed to hip hop, which at that point was so new. Like now, the culture's 40 years old. Then I was like, it was literally there was nothing like it.
Right.
So I kind of just fell into it creatively, and then I caught the bug. And then as hip hop and rap became more mainstream, but then equally there was an underground undercurrent. and then eventually, maybe 20 years later, in maybe the Puffy era, the kind of everything converged into one huge mainstream kind of force to be reckoned with, you know. But up until that point, every album, every record that came out in the hip hop genre or the rap genre was new. I mean, you know, it was every record. I mean, you look at the records in 1981 through to 1991.
The golden era.
Yeah, but I mean, and it continued probably longer than that. But every album that came out broke new ground because technology was new. You know, like so the drum machines they used in 1984 compared to the samplers they used 5 years later meant that the sound of the music and the output was massively different.
Right.
And so that the technology was emerging and evolving, the music and the sound and the culture was evolving and emerging. I just caught the bug, you know, just through that whole process. It wasn't, I didn't really get into music professionally until probably, I mean, I say professionally, I used to do pirate radio shows. So I was collecting records, I was buying records as a fan. Then in like 1986, 1987, actually 86, I was like 15 years old, you know, and I you know, through having friends on the scene, and you know, we do pirate radio shows, which is basically illegal radio, you know, and you'd set up this kind of temporary system of transmitters and primitive transmitters and everyone's on the top of a tower block, like a project building or whatever. And,
these guys wouldn't know anything about that now, but technically, you know, pirate radio is what's happening right now on the internet, you know, pretty much daily now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, it's just all motions. I mean, since people started downloading music illegally,
Mm-hmm.
before streaming platforms or before Apple Music or whatever, it was all illegal.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was kind of driven by my desire to, my passion for music, being into music, and just kind of, I just have this desire to share music. I just like, I'd buy an album, I'm like, how can I share this with people? So I'd make mixtapes for friends. You know, my friends had then gone off to university, and they were on pretty tight budgets. They were a little bit younger than me, so then I kind of had my first job. So I was like buying more records, and I was like sending them cassettes to them at university of all the kind of hot 12 inches at the time of records. And I just always like sharing music, and I guess that's kind of how my sort of early passion, and I was an inquisitive person. I was discovering music, I was enjoying music, I was a fan of music, I wanted to share music, and that just kind of developed over the years into being a radio presenter, having a record label. You know, it's always been about enjoying consuming music, but sharing it and distributing music. So I guess that's kind of, you know, how my passion for it has turned into a kind of a profession almost.
Okay, so what do you think, for example, about that era where there is no internet? It's just like when a musician, he make his music overseas, it's really required huge effort, you know, and collaboration of big peoples to help it that physical music go to different country. It's not like the internet when you put the music and then go globally. That time is like if you get your friend coming from the state bringing that
because it was so hard to discover music back then, you know, because you literally had to go out and search. It wasn't like it was knocking on your door like it is now.
I mean, it's the gift and the curse. I mean, it's music is so accessible now, you know, it's so easy to share your music, and that's amazing, you know, the fact that, you know, you can be a bedroom producer, make a beat, put it on SoundCloud, some A&R record label hears that beat, puts it on a record that goes platinum. You know, the period from inception to, you know, conception to inception is so short now. If you're lucky, it's like winning the lottery. But for the most part, people are making great music, and it's easy to make music. You know, you have the technology people have now is unbelievable. Whether it's like an affordable microphone or a laptop with a sequencer or a portable drum machine or a keyboard. I mean, it's just easy to make music. It's easy to upload your music. It's easy to get your music exposed. However, the value of music has deteriorated massively. There's no value to it. So it's very hard for people.
It's like fast food, right?
It's very hard for people to make money from it, and it means that the elite, you know, artists or the ones that do get the break go stratospheric. And but for the most part, whereas it's not as democratic anymore, you know. Back when kind of I started, it was like, you know, to get your music heard, you had to submit a demo tape on a cassette, or a DAT. Even before any digital formats, before DATs or CDs. You had to send a cassette with your music. You had to either record it at home or go to a studio if you had the money, to record in the studio, send it to a record label with a letter, dear sir,
right.
listen to my demo, like the old EPMD record. Please listen to my demo. It's
right.
And there was a selection process. Record labels existed. They were hugely successful because they were selling physical formats, and there was huge money in the music industry.
The markup is ridiculous, you know.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
So I, you know, back then it was a simpler time. It was a more democratic time. I feel, you know, in that you really had to put the effort into your music and your craft, and to manufacture it, to get it recorded and send it, and the effort you had to put in it. Now it's just like tap away the computer, upload a beat, email it to everyone. Everything's very instant, you know. Yeah,
BCC and just boom.
Yeah, so it's great now, and it was great then. And the distinct difference between now and then is that now people don't get paid fairly for their music.
Nah, man.
So, you know, the streaming, you hear all the stats are, you know, the money you get from streaming is minimal.
Yeah, you gotta get somebody got to listen to your song like 10 times before you get a penny, man.
Yeah.
You know, a penny.
10 million times before you get a penny.
Right. Oh yeah, right.
10,000 times, you know. And but then you, what it has done actually is put more of the spotlight on all the different revenue streams. So now, your live show, you can't just be recording artists and put it out. You know, you have to have a great live show, because to make any money, you have to tour. You have to do shows. You have to go show money. You have to get your publishing. You have to be on point with your publishing. You have to be on point with your merchandise at your shows. You have to be on point with the show itself. You have to be on point with the recording materials. Now people are looking. Now it's all going 360. We're talking about vinyl. Going back to like putting your stuff on CD or cassette or vinyl. And now vinyl sales have overtaken CD sales for the first time in 30 years. Like in 2018, 2019, vinyl has now overtaken CD. And also people are now willing to spend more money per unit on physical product, because now even the kids who have grown up or the millennials in this sort of newer generation who consume the music through YouTube or streaming, they're even bored of it. They're like, we want something more than just this, because we're just like skipping through tracks. We're not really absorbing and
they're getting music that's curated for them without even having to look at it.
That's a really good point as well, with the playlist things. And playlists, believe me, playlists can break an artist, and can break 100%. Artists that deserve to be broken through. That's almost like the old demo process. You know, everyone can upload the music, but then you've got curators on these platforms, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Deezer or whatever, that kind of, you know, they'll say, okay, well, Stormzy from the UK for it is a good example. I believe he kind of broke really from having amazing placement on certain playlists, and those curators at Spotify can make or break that artist. And now the guy's probably, you know, he's performing in Dubai and getting hundreds of thousands a show. But an artist like that deserves it. So maybe that kind of that old demo process is the same, but in a new form. But but now people are willing to pay more for music, so they'll pay, you know, 200 dirhams on a vinyl to make it local, use your local currency. 200 dirhams on vinyl, because you've got physical products with a booklet inside, and they also include the free download, and they also include maybe a CD, and it has it has a kind of
you have a connection with it. Anything tangible, I think you have more of a connection with than what you'll find online. Whether it's like, you know,
it's like the difference between the e-book and the physical book. Always like there is a emotional touching to browse the page. It's really nice.
I can't get into the Kindles just yet, man. I'm reading the Dapper Dan book we discussed on Kindle, but it's taking me a while to read it because it's on Kindle.
So. I don't have a Kindle. I think I'm ready for a Kindle now. But I think, you know.
So going back to you know, the whole demo process, man, that leads me to the next question with you being an A&R at one point in time. How was that? Like, have you discovered anyone that kind of blew up on a worldwide level, or how was that?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a few artists that I wouldn't say, you know, you've got to define blow up, but we certainly had. I mean, the two sort of notable signings that I've done in my life are, first of all, Black Twang, who's a rapper, sort of, I would say around late 90s, early 2000s. He was big on the underground scene. I was at A&R for a record label called Wall of Sound Records, who are more a dance music record label. And they gave me and a friend of mine, Theo, from a group called the Wise Guys, they basically gave us carte blanche, like just sign artists, sign 12 inches, sign one-off records. Anyway, I signed Black Twang. He was kind of big on the underground scene. He did an album called The Kickoff. and you know, I helped him kind of A&R and you know, record it, and that was a really successful kind of campaign. Quite notably, actually, we when we had that record label, so the Bad Magic was the hip hop imprint of Wall of Sound Records. And you know, with any kind of hip hop imprint, you're kind of like, well, put those guys in the corner, you know,
right.
You know, just put them in the corner with you know, the storage space. And
just say we got it, but
we
let's not do much with it. Right.
You know, sit over there, guys, and stay out of the way of the big boys. You know. But in that space where they put us, Banksy was an up and coming artist, so we so in the back of the office space, Banksy had his studios.
Yeah. Wow. So you know who Banksy is?
Yeah.
Oh man! Oh, look, we trying to discover who he is, man. Documentaries about it.
Banksy's in the back,
yeah,
doing shit, and then you got like all the storage space. I'm sort of visualizing it now.
Right.
You had all the shelves and all the record, all the storage space for Wall of Sound Records and Bad Magic, and then we had a couple of token desks that they gave us.
Right.
And so Black Twine's album, we actually got Banksy to do the artwork for it. So Black Twine, all of his 12 inches and albums, all the artwork is Banksy's artwork. So yeah, it's
crazy how you just skip over that. Like Banksy is one of the most notable artists in the world, and like here you go, you know exactly you know, who he is, man. That's amazing.
I mean, you know, see that Banksy then wasn't what Banksy became. You know, he
right.
kind of, I think it's the media and like social media that made him become the enigma that he is now. But yeah, he's a regular dude in the heart.
I have my theories of who he is right now, man. I'm like, is it Larat? Can you tell me? Nah.
Is he what?
Larat, the artist is another artist similar to Banksy. They have similar styles.
I know, there's a lot of people that do that kind of stencil.
Stencil,
yeah. So he's so anyway, that was so for me that was quite I was really proud to be part of that project, and it was, you know, I look back at that and go, wow, you know, we did some pretty groundbreaking stuff. And then the artist that I worked with later on was a rapper called Sway.
Sway?
Not Sway and Tech.
Okay, gotcha.
So that was a problem we ran into. He was Sway before he even knew who Sway from Sway and Tech was.
Right.
And
was it around the same time period?
No.
Oh,
I mean, Sway and Tech were like
they were ahead of time.
The early 90s.
Gotcha.
Even before then, they had a radio show in LA.
Right.
Sway was a UK rapper from Ghana, very talented. He kind of made a name for himself on the street by doing these incredible mixtapes, and he had a real sense of humor. So he built a really strong, loyal following from his mixtapes. I picked him up. Someone told me about him. I listened to his mixtape. I thought he was brilliant. I asked him to come for a meeting. By that point, I had my own distribution deal in the UK, so I distribute American rap.
With your record label?
Yeah. I mean, I had a record label. I actually had a radio show called The Old City Show.
Yeah.
Then basically I set up. Then I got a distribution deal, basically gifted to me because I was looking after an old a record label called Landspeed Records, which was based out of New York. And they had Mobb Deep and Non-Fiction and Big Noid and all these kind of big rappers, and then, you know, that label imploded. They had 50 Cent before he was signed to Shady.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, that's a long story, but that
during the How to Rob days.
Yeah. So that label imploded. I was their representation in Europe because that record record label then kind of disappeared. I was then almost gifted a distribution deal. Like, well, we've now got a big gap in our repertoire. Why don't you sign some of these American artists and we'll distribute them in the UK and Europe? So I set up All City Music, which was an extension of my All City radio show brand, and then basically discovered Sway. I said, you need distribution. He had his own label. I started distributing his music, and then, you know, we actually had a lot of success in the first year. The album did really well. We were nominated for what was called a Mercury Prize.
Oh wow! Which
is kind of, you know, not like the Brits or the Grammys. It was the kind of the niche. It was the prize given to the kind of the more interesting up and coming experimental artists kind of were nominated for this award. But it's a very prestigious award because usually then that artist would be recognised and go on to big things. You know, so we got nominated for that award. And then, you know, we went through some ups and downs a couple of albums later, but then I almost kind of threw the towel in on him, and he was like, look man, we've got to get a deal. We can't do it independently anymore because we were independent up to that point, totally self-funded. Eventually I got him a deal with a Universal subsidiary called 3B, and they really embraced him as an artist. They got the vision. And then he kind of blew up, you know, and then he got like probably a top 5 chart record in the UK.
Oh wow.
And it wasn't a commercial record, it was a hard record.
Really?
You know, yeah, it was a tough record. interestingly enough, the guy who produced that record was a guy called Giorgio Danford, and he is, at the time he was famous because he was producing a lot of Akon's music, and Sway really got quite pally with Akon through, I don't know how the musical connection came along. Anyway, they connected in some way. Akon's a manager, basically discovered this producer from the Netherlands called Giorgio. He produced for Gwen Stefani, he produced for David Guetta, he brought him in to produce all of Akon's music, and then the record that broke through was actually produced by Giorgio, and you know, people didn't realise that David Guetta's producer had produced Sway's record, you know. Right. So it had this really, really massive commercial feel to it. Not feel, quality.
Right.
And like the depth of the production and the quality of the music was phenomenal. It was a whole different level sonically. And people were like, whoa, you know, and that's because this huge hit maker was behind it, but making kind of real hip hop. Anyway, that was a big hit. The next record broke through, and then you kind of realise, and I learned a hard lesson that year in the music industry. Then we had the biggest touring year of his career. He was doing tons of shows. You know, we had a playlist on the biggest radio stations in the UK. Finally, we kind of got that breakthrough record in the UK. But then, for whatever reason, the third single didn't quite connect. And that's when you realise, man, when you don't keep going to the next level, the momentum, it literally falls apart. It falls apart in like days. You know, like you see the shows like suddenly stop. You see the radio support stop. You see and it's like, wow, that really, as quickly as we were moving.
The high doesn't last long unless you continue to produce those. So let's go back to your time on the radio, man. Have you interviewed anyone, or have you, like, what was your groundbreaking moments on the radio?
I mean, when I started on
because you're like one of the ones who like ushered in like hip hop, man, to the UK. You know, like
I mean, I'll be honest. I grew up. My biggest influences, people like DJ Red Alert. So like DJ Red Alert in the '80s was the radio guy. You had Marley Marl, DJ Red Alert, Mr. Magic. You know, and I grew up as much as I was discovering music. You would get like kind of these cassettes of radio shows from New York, you know, sort of third hand, fourth hand, you know, it was like a fifth or sixth duplicate copy of it. So by the time you got it, it was like fuzzy, you know, and it was recorded off radio anyway. So I grew up listening to, like, I was inspired by listening to New York radio, and I loved the way they formatted their radio shows at that time. It was the production levels of a US radio compared to UK radio was a whole different level. And I was fascinated by that. And I spent a year living in Boston, Massachusetts, working as an internet radio station as well. So when it came to, you know, a passion for pirate radio, and then eventually one thing led to another. I was a journalist, and then just by chance, when I was working at Wall of Sound Records or Bad Magic Records, the radio blogger said, "Hey, I know this guy Zane Lowe. He does the daily new music show on XFM. He was also a presenter on MTV at the time. So he'd moved from New Zealand to London. He worked in a record store basically, but they had this gig he was a presenter in New Zealand. He got this gig on MTV, and he also got this daily gig playing new music on XFM. And he's really into his hip hop, and he's looking for someone to do a hip hop show with. Would you be interested in meeting? So I met Zane. Me and Theo, a friend of ours, we all met, we hung out. It took us 10 minutes, and we're like, right, let's do a show. Within 7 days, the station director had given us our own slot on a Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's basically me, Zane, and Theo, and we started the All City show. And we pre-recorded it on a weekly basis for about 4 weeks, and then Theo got really busy. He was almost like a pop artist at the time. No disrespect. He had a couple of breakthrough records, big chart records, and he was DJing all over the place, and he was just very busy.
You can't be mad at that.
No. So he lasted maybe 6 months. Then Zane got poached by Radio 1, which is obviously the biggest national station in the UK. So he was kind of like, well, I've done my time at XFM, and he's obviously such a talented presenter, and now he's on running Beats One essentially. And so he moved over. So the show was kind of left in my hands, you know. But I remember the breakthrough moment. The first week, I think the second week of doing the show on XFM, I'd known Eminem's manager, and Eminem, you know, since before he was really signed to Universal. He was an underground artist with a couple of vinyl releases before the first album.
Yes, of course.
And then he'd just broken through, and they invited me up to Manchester, the Manchester Arena, to interview him backstage, and he was the first chainsaw tour, the mask of Jason Mask.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I got to interview Eminem backstage, and I had like a good 45 minutes with him, and really got sort of deep in him, and then sort of broadcast that interview, and that was the first radio interview in the UK. In fact, I don't think there were many radio interviews with Eminem anywhere.
Right.
That was certainly the first radio interview with Eminem in the UK.
Wow.
And Zane got the first TV interview. So he interviewed him for MTV.
Yeah.
I interviewed him. It wasn't even for Radio 1, which is the biggest national station.
Yeah.
His first radio interview was on XFM.
Yeah.
So by week 2, by week 3, I suddenly was interviewing this absolute global superstar.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
that's amazing.
Pretty much
man.
secured my job for a little while.
And I believe also that time when it's a major interview before the internet, they can keep repeating playing it because people want to listen to the story.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done, they didn't, because it was on the hip hop show.
Right.
I think they used snippets of it, but what I did,
And he got the dub.
I even have to pat myself on the back. What I did that was smart is that when you get drops from artists, hey, this is Eminem, I'm going to Dan Greenpeace, blah blah blah. I got drops from Eminem for pretty much every show on XFM. So everyone got their own drop.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I came back with this tape, and I'm like, hey, Eminem drops for everybody, and it's like, superhero that's just arrived on our radio station.
Right.
I'm overrating that a little bit, but it was pretty clever of me.
Yeah.
And that worked. So I kind of stayed there for 6-7 years, and then things happened.
Also, there is very interesting story when he was in XFM radios. I believe you interviewed 3 times Kanye West. Tell us about the Kanye West of
Yeezy. Before the Yeezy.
Strictly speaking, I actually interviewed him once.
Okay.
But the show interviewed him twice. The first time I legitimately couldn't make the interview, and I was a fan because I'd heard of his production. I certainly went through when Through the Wire came out.
Yeah.
That was a big record. It was a big underground record. It was wow, this guy's produced Jay-Z through to Beanie Siegel, through all the Rockefeller artists, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly, so there's a lot of anticipation for this record. Kanye then was different to Kanye now in terms of the public perception, because they didn't know him was a new artist and he was hungry. But when you listen to the interviews, he's exactly the same person.
Yeah.
So the first interview I was meant to do, I couldn't make it. So my co-host at that point, by the time Zane had left and Theo had left, my co-host was Kishkash, who's a big sneaker kind of connoisseur now. So if I couldn't make it, I sent him. So he went to interview Kanye. Now, I would consider myself a professional broadcaster in terms of the way, my professional radio, the radio show I did for XFM was on a commercial station. There had to be certain kind of quality control.
Yes, of course.
You had to sort of be mindful of the output. You couldn't be smoking blunts in the studio and cursing and
right.
Thing. It was a professional setup, otherwise you lose your job.
Yeah.
I had a much more professional and structured approach to how I broadcast shows. Yeah. Kish was kind of like think of it as Chuck D and Flavor Flav, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. You got the wild one.
He was a bit looser, but he was a bit wilder, and he was a bit, he's like the kind of free. Imagine that free spirit, and I'm the kind of I'm the responsible big brother, and he's the kind of the crazy brother. Anyway, so he goes and interviews Kanye, and then Kanye's a hot artist, right? At that point, and so there's probably 20 other radio presenters that get time with Kanye, so they get a 10-minute slot with Kanye in a studio, not live. So you go in the studio, you sit there, you have 10 minutes with Kanye, next.
Right.
Kish took up the entire 2-hour
slot
with Kanye, talking to Kanye.
Yeah.
And the thing is, imagine a scenario like this, where the guy from the record label, Universal or Def Jam or whatever it was,
right.
he's like,
cut it out.
Giving the cut signs. If you can't see the video of this interview, then imagine you do the cut sign with your hand against your neck, cut it.
Right.
And Kish was just ignoring that.
Yeah.
But Kanye was so into the interview with Kish because he's a crazy guy. Kanye's a crazy guy.
Right.
They were going off on all sorts of
tangents. Oh man, so that energy was probably amazing, man. The chemistry,
But they were talking absolute bullshit for 2 hours. And sorry if I'm cursing. You can reverse it or whatever. And so everyone was super pissed because no one got the time with Kanye apart from Kish. So that was the first time. And the thing is, I didn't even broadcast that interview because it was so unbroadcastable. It didn't. Even if I could maybe have got 3 minutes of a conventional conversation out of him.
Right.
I couldn't even get that.
Yeah.
And that interview is actually online. If you go on SoundCloud, Dan Greenpeace. Just recently, I had that interview on ice. I'd never even listened to the interview.
Wow.
For all these years. Kish came to visit me in Dubai and was like, man, you got to dig out that Kanye interview.
Yeah.
Right.
And I pulled a joke on him. I knew where it was, but I've got like, I must have 1,000 CDs of all my radio shows archives. So I said, well, if you want to come to my house while you're in Dubai, let's go through all the CDs and try and find it. I left him for like 3/4 of an hour. He's like, man, I can't find it. And the CDs were barely labelled with the guest artists anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, I found it here. After I made him sweat before. But anyway, eventually I put it online so you can hear the whole interview. But if you listen to that interview, and that came out before Kanye's first album, listen to him then, listen to the kind of stuff he would talk on TMZ or anything like that. He's not changed. He's no different.
His core is the same.
Yeah,
his core is the same.
Absolutely. And he also believed his own hype.
Yeah.
Before the first album, you listen to what he's saying is
very confident.
You can either ride with me,
right,
or don't ride with me, but I'm going in that direction.
Right.
Yeah,
like, you know,
he had a vision for himself and he executed. You know, from where he started to where he is now, he executed that vision and that probably surpassed anything he thought about during that
it's
time.
like Kanye's changed.
So what is actually your personal opinion when you interview him for the first time? Do you really like how you picture his future, just like as a journalist?
Kanye?
Yes.
Well then, so
yeah.
I the second time I interviewed him was just before the second album dropped.
Yeah.
You know, and then he was all bathing out. He was baked out. It was a pre-recorded interview. I had about an hour with him, to be honest. It was, but then in the interview, he took like 3 calls during the interview. One call was from I think Nigo. You know, from Bathing Ape.
Yeah.
Who was calling some sort of translator, trying to sort of tell him, yeah, save me that, send me that, FedEx me that. You know, it's like, man,
come on, let's do this interview. You can get to that later. You know.
You know, so but he was still kind of, he was still outclassed as a hip hop artist.
Yes.
He was still kind of like the second album was an amazing album as well.
Yeah.
I think, you know, listening back to the interview, he sounded crazier on the first one that Kish did, and the second one was a slightly more conventional interview. And I got like, and then, you know, anyway,
I think
you definitely see a star quality. You know, you see a guy that's like believes in himself so much that he cannot fail. You know, that's what I got from it. And
I think I recommend everyone to check Dan's SoundCloud and to listen to the interview for sure. We want to hear like your feedback. You know, this would be a really interesting interview.
The second one's not online. They were all archived on CD. It's a bit of a passion project. I need to spend time and upload some of these interviews.
Of course,
amazing ones.
And also, you was writing like for the Shop Collection magazine and review for the Guardian online. How do you feel about that collaboration?
I mean, I was a sort of freelance journalist. I mean, that's how honestly a lot of my connections in the music industry came from writing about music or broadcasting music in the UK. Because you know when these big artists go on their sort of promo tours, really the first stop outside of North America is London. Even within Europe. I mean, Paris probably as well. But London is
London is it.
It's English speaking. It's a big country. That, you know, they consume music in a big way, and it's a very mature market, you know, for entertainment. So, you know, we were lucky that a lot of these artists will come over. You know, even before they came over to do interviews on radio, you know, I'd do phone interviews for Hip Hop Connection magazine. So at one point, Hip Hop Connection magazine, Hip Hop Connection came out before The Source, or before any American.
Oh, before The Source.
Before The Source,
Okay.
Hip Hop Connection was out way before The Source. I would say by I said way, but at least by a year. In those times, HAC was the first print publication dedicated to rap and hip hop.
Wow. Okay.
So I didn't actually honestly start writing for it until probably about 10 years after that. But we wrote a lot of Hip Hop Connection. Between me and my buddies, we were writing pretty much the whole magazine. And I wrote a column called Independence Day, and it was purely about exposing kind of underground, up and coming.
So that was like the unsigned hype before unsigned hype.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. But then Chairman Mao, who started Ego Trip, he then did a column in the Source magazine called Independence Day. I'm like, dude, where do you get that idea from? and then we got into a spat because we had an independent hip hop magazine called Fat Lace magazine, and they had Ego Trip, and they were both kind of slightly satirical takes on the industry, on the music industry, and hip hop in particular. Very tongue in cheek, but we were very tongue in cheek. You know, we had very dry British humour. They kind of had to play the game a bit because they lived in New York. They were surrounded by the industry. We were in London. We didn't care.
Free range to kind of move how you want to move.
We fired shots all over the place. You know, we got into a bit of trouble with it, but we kind of won a lot of friends. We made a lot of friends in the industry, and even to this day, some of those connections from writing as a journalist have helped me secure big deals in my career now, because I've known some of these guys for 20, 30 years, and as I've come up through the industry, so have they, and they're in positions of power, and I'm in a sort of position of influence in what I do now. So yeah, I mean, it all comes back to the hip hop, you know. So those days in journalism and radio and everything, those connections I made, still to this day, are extremely valuable.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of visiting your home a few times, man, and I've noticed like your record collection is ridiculous, man. Like he literally has like, you know, he has 3 times dope, like these Philly guys, and like it's just, you know, for me it's just like surreal, because I'm in Dubai, I'm from Philadelphia, and this guy from London has all of these records that we kind of, you know, embraced, and you know, you have one of the best record collections I've seen ever. You know what I mean? So
that's why the number of 2018 was increased. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's Dan. You know, Dan is breaking his 30-year mark, man.
I mean, they talk about like record store day now, which is cool. I think it's cool that they do things like that, and then record companies now release music specifically in certain formats and re-release albums for record store day. Every day of my life is record store day.
Yes.
You know, it's like, but you know, I'm very passionate about music. I like to. The newer, the better the technology becomes, the more ways that people consume music now. Obviously, everything's now boiled down to streams.
Right.
And the more I go the other way and dig deeper into music, I'm discovering music from countries that I never would imagine I'd listen to music from in the 60s. I mean, I just went to Rome over Christmas, New Year, and I spent a day with this dude who's a record dealer, just listening to like obscure Italian soundtrack music from the 70s, and I'm like, yeah, I'll have that. And now I'm like, you know, this is music I never even knew existed, and it's not available on any streaming platform. Yeah. So I'm consuming music that, I mean, so it sounds crazy, but I don't really know much about modern hip hop, you know.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. This will sound insane to you. I cannot name.
Yeah.
I'm proud of saying it, but I'm not proud of saying it. I cannot name one Travis Scott record.
Wow. Yeah.
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 Yes, of course. Yeah.
Like, you know, but my eldest kid is 10 years old. You know, my middle kid is like 6 years old at the moment. You know, they're listening to tracks and they're putting me onto music because you know, I'm hearing them play stuff, and it's kind of, you know, it's kind of gone full circle. So that there will be a period of 10 years where I don't know anything about modern music.
Yeah.
As my kids get older and they form their own musical taste, they'll put me onto stuff, and that's fine. You know, it's like I'm enjoying digging further in time. You know, I'll go to Lebanon, or I'll go to Delhi or Mumbai or Bangkok and listen. And the first thing I do when I go to any city is find the vinyl store.
Yeah.
Right.
Where's like the old second-hand record stores. And I'll say to them, I don't mess about. I'm like, you know, all right, give me the kind of interesting, rarer releases.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take them all, you know. And then
I don't even know how you have any more room, man. Like,
I haven't got time to spend all day in a record store like I used to do in the 80s and 90s. So I'm kind of straight to the chase. Like, what have you got? Give me some interesting records. I'm all about recommendations, but I'm constantly consuming music on vinyl, and it's my preferred format, and I'm discovering, you know, music from different countries, and it's, for me, it's fascinating. You know, it's a fascinating journey. It's a musical journey that will never ever end.
There's too much music out there.
Yeah.
In 10 years, I'll be like, man, have you heard this guy Travis Scott? He's unbelievable. Man, you know, he was famous for the sneakers, but really, you should listen to this. You know, it's fine. I don't rush into it. I'm not really about the hype. If a new album comes out, I won't even listen to it for like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I'm the same way actually.
But also, I believe also there is difference between the old school and the new school, because now the music cannot survive 6 months, 1 year. You know, it's very like fast music. Before music was really can stay like for 10 years, and you can always like to listen it. You know, so I can understand your point. You know, I share with you the same point. Is difficult, or let's say it is different between the way hip hop before and the hip hop of nowadays.
I agree, and they're very different.
Yeah.
But the energy is still the same. Like I say, and nothing against Travis Scott. I've not had time, and because I'm not on radio, I'm not writing, I'm not broadcasting. I don't have to really stay on top of music. However, this morning I was getting my car serviced. I'm looking at Instagram. And kids are talking about Roddy Ricch, right?
Yeah. He just went number 1 right now.
Number 1. So I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. So let's say Roddy Ricch's number 1 record. So I go into Apple Music. I play Roddy Ricch. What's it called?
I'm not sure of the name of it, but
The new record, anyway.
Yeah.
Is it The Box?
Yeah.
So, something like that, yeah.
So I'm playing the music, I'm like, okay, like, I relate it to, so let's say I'm 16, 17 years old. I go to my first ever gig in life, which is probably Public Enemy, Run DMC, Eric B. Rakim, Al Cool J. One of those artists. I lived in a town called Leeds in the UK. The nearest place where they had big, like,
arena.
Not arena. Back then it was not even it was like a theatre show.
Theatre show, yeah.
So like 3,000 people, right? Was Manchester Apollo. So I'd get the coach for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I'd go and see Run DMC, Public Enemy, Al Cool J, whatever. And the hype and those shows were crazy.
Yeah.
You know, we knew every word because we'd buy the albums, the lyrics from the album. We know the lyrics. It was mind-blowing music, and the energy and the crazy and the noise. You know, it was insane. But it's the same now. It's like I watch video footage of this Roddy Ricch guy, and the movement of the crowd is interesting. Everyone's kind of wavy. You know, they know the lyrics. The music's very sparse with the hi-hats and the bass and the drops,
right?
And the way the crowd's moving, the way but the kids know the lyrics. And I'm like, that's no different to how I consumed hip hop in the 80s. You know,
that's true.
It's a different era. I don't quite get it now. It doesn't really appeal to my music sensibility because, like I say, I grew up on 60s, 70s American black soul music. You know. Right. And so that kind of the samples, like that's why I love Kanye, the use of samples, you know, the use of soul samples, that appeals to my musical sensibilities and my personal taste. Now I think it's lost a lot of soul. Even the grime music in the UK, I used to think grime music, we should be so proud. Yeah, I've managed artists and I've signed artists and we've released music that are kind of being the kind of the sort of the founding fathers of the grime scene. But the grime music for me, I love what Skepta's doing or Stormzy, but for me, the sound hasn't got any kind of rhythm or soul or depth anymore. It's and I'm like,
it doesn't hit you the same way.
It's moved away from the kind of the music it's come from. It's black music, you know. It's like it has roots in R&B and soul and calypso and you know whatever. And it's like it's kind of where's the rhythm anymore? You know, there's no like rhythm or soul anymore. So for me, the kind of the modern hip hop doesn't quite hit the mark for me, but I value it, I appreciate it, I respect it. It's a different era, it's a different time. Anyway, I maybe went off tangent there, but anyway.
No, you're good, man. You're good. So I know that you've had a book that was written about you.
Yeah.
You know, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
The book was written by my friend. I mean, you know, I talked about the demo, the times of like sending your demo into a record label.
Right.
So I guess like in 89, 90, you know, I had a sampler, we made music. My friend Drew was a rapper, and I was the producer, but I rapped a bit as well. And
what was your producer name, man, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, actually, you know, by that point, I was Greenpeace.
Okay, all right, cool.
But I wasn't Dan Greenpeace. I was like, I started off as DJ Hype.
Yeah.
I think that was the only name I had. DJ Hype, and then it turned into DJ Greenpeace. And then someone wrote about me in a magazine and called me Dan Greenpeace, and then I became Dan Greenpeace. So by the time when that book was written, I was like DJ Greenpeace, but I was the producer. But I was kind of inspired by people like Pete Rock and Diamond D.
Right.
And so I thought, well, I can produce, but I can rhyme, I can rap as well. But Drew was really the rapper; he was the lyricist. And you know, we went through the whole process. We did shows, we sucked. We made music, it sucked. But there was something there. We sent demos to record labels. Yeah. and they responded.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. We got. I mean, maybe not. I think in the book he actually printed a couple of the letters the responses we got back, and they were very well professionally written. They were like, "Dear Andrew," it was Drew. Thank you for your demo. We'll listen to it. It's not quite what we're looking for at the moment. All the usual stuff. But they responded.
It's good. Even the object is good.
And then we eventually, once we got invited down to a label called G Street Records, and G Street Records was a big UK record label on G Street in London. It kind of sounds like a made-up record label, but the street was G Street.
Yeah. Oh, G Street.
G Street.
Okay.
GW. Anyway, and they were very famous for the Stereo MCs. You might remember the Stereo MCs, but they were British kind of rap crossover rock band, you know, that had huge hits, and they were actually really big in America. So they were like, yeah, well, you know, we can get you down here, we can get you in sessions, we can get the Stereo MCs to produce you. We were like, hell no. We were like, we're not getting those guys touching any of our music. in hindsight, it would have been fairly prudent to sort of take them up on the offer, and we may have released a record. But anyway, we didn't. And so the book is about that kind of journey, but it's more about Drew's life story than me. I'm kind of a bit of a byproduct because I was in a group with him.
Gotcha.
But the book is really about how his worldview and engagement in politics or current affairs or history or whatever it may be was aided by the knowledge he got from listening to rap music,
right?
And groups like Public Enemy who were socially conscious, politically and racially and everything, and it's kind of, you come from a small provincial town in the UK where you're a little bit blinkered and you don't really see much outside of that small town of a ton of white faces and maybe one or two Asian families, one or two Indian families, one or two Afro-Caribbean families, those kind of roots. Because there's a big, obviously, influx of Afro-Caribbean immigrants, and back then there was very few. There was very, very little diversity. In schools we went to every day. There was like one black kid at the school.
Right.
It's like, and it was like, and your worldview is skewed a little bit.
Right.
To the verge of probably maybe even being racist, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know any different. And he basically, the book is really about how hip hop changed that worldview, and then turned him into the journalist and the sort of the person he is now.
So that's dope, though, man.
It's cool. Being honest about the subject and how it was, and it's a very honest, book. But it's kind of funny that one of the underlying theme is also like. There's a lot of footnotes in the book about the history of hip hop and referencing certain groups at that time, so it's kind of an educational book in terms of it pretty much tracks the history of hip hop from the mid '80s to the mid '90s. Yeah. But then there's a funny subtext of our failed rap career, through to a very serious subtext of how he as a person, as a human being, evolved through consuming music and how the lyrics of some of those musicians. Now coming back to Roddy Ricch. Right. Could kids say that their worldview has been changed through Roddy Ricch's lyrics?
Yeah.
Maybe maybe no.
Who
knows?
I mean, it gives you an idea of what's going on in certain neighborhoods, but as far as like a worldly view, I'm kind of.
I'm not saying yes or no either way.
Right.
I'm and let's say there was less ignorant rap then.
Yeah, true. I agree.
There was party rap.
It was context. Everything was. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're like, we're going to jump in the Beamer and we're going to go to the party.
Yeah, then you listen to that.
Really, is that any difference in what they're saying now? Maybe not, but at least there was a good amount of music that came out that were on major labels that got a massive global PR marketing push that was conscious.
Right.
Game changer.
It was both sides. It was more of a balance. It was definitely a balance.
No, I don't think there was a balance.
No, man, it's not at all. You have your Kendricks and you have your J. Cole's, and then that's where it stops pretty much.
Honestly, I'm a big fan of fucked out ignorant rap. At one point, still to this day.
Danny Gangster.
No, but I'm still like a huge MOP fan.
Oh yeah. Annie up, man. Yeah.
Not a lot of consciousness in their lyrics, but I mean, I love that. I like watching movies that are maybe a bit more violent and edgy, but I also like watching,
straight out Captain.
Art house movies, whatever it may be, but at least there's a balance to my taste.
Right, yeah. You have to have that balance, man. I think that's the only way to
lost the balance.
You get a chance to watch on Netflix the Hip Hop Revolution?
Hip Hop Revolution, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen all those. That was really well put together. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I think Russell Peters, the comedian, was kind of involved in that. But there's been some great stuff on TV. And that's great. I mean, I was actually involved in a very, very minor way. The Roots actually just did a recent show called the Hip Hop Records that Shook America, I think it was. One of the episodes.
Shout out to the Roots, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I love how they're expanding. Like their brand is just amazing right now. Yeah. Outside of just the rappers. But I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely, I agree. But I mean that's a really good documentary. The one I was really into was the Bridge Wars. It was about how, in the late '80s, KRS, the Boogie Down Productions versus the Juice Crew. And kind of what called the Bridge Wars and the rivalry.
The bridge is over.
But that's a really good episode if you want to pick out one. It's a great episode.
Also, then, like you starting your own record label, that's like a big shift from media and journalism to go to start like your own label. What is the reason to start your music label, and what was the mission or the goal or the vision for this record label?
For the label, I mean, like I say, I kind of inherited this distribution deal. I mean, I'll summarize the story very briefly.
Yeah.
Landspeed Distribution was based in Boston, Massachusetts. They were a distribution company, vinyl CDs, whatever, mainly putting out rap music. Bob Perry, who's the chief exec of the company, he basically, 50 Cent was signed to Sony, Columbia, whatever it was.
Was that through DMC? Like, was that through that?
Under Jam Master Jay's.
Jam Master Jay's
wing, yeah.
Sorry.
His career didn't really take off. He got shot.
Yeah.
He went into he became a street hustler.
Yeah.
Maybe he was that before he rapped with Jam Master Jay. Went back into that. Anyway, he got signed to Shady Aftermath. Before he got signed to that deal, Bob Perry basically put out a CD called Guess Who's Back. He's like there with the gun on the cover, pointing the gun in your face.
Right.
So that was put out by Landspeed Distribution.
Oh, okay.
It sold zillions.
Really?
It was. We sold so many of those. Even in Europe,
Was that after or before?
Before he was signed. Yeah,
oh,
he was selling crazy. I mean, everything we put out was selling crazy.
Right.
But it was because he had a name, because people had heard of him before, and then he came out as this kind of real gangster rapper.
Right.
Yeah.
Sort of street rapper. He went huge. Then he signed to Shady Aftermath. Then word got out, obviously, that he signed to Shady Aftermath. That's the CD sales for that particular release went even crazier.
Right.
We're selling hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these things. Then basically Paul Rosenberg, who's manager of Eminem, but also the kind of it was a JV. Shady Aftermath was a JV with Dr. Dre, and they were said to Landspeed, okay, you can only sell so many of these records. You basically got to cap this. You can't keep on selling these records, basically, because we've got our own album coming out, and it's going to be a big deal. It's produced by Dre. It's going to be huge. They kept on selling and selling and selling and selling. So eventually they got a cease and desist, and they basically got shut down. And and then it all went, a bit wonky. So then at that point, that's when I inherited the distribution deal, because we were selling so many records through this distributor in the UK, in Europe. And they were like, well, we now haven't got any hip-hop releases. So Dan, here's your distribution deal. Call it what you want, do what you want. We'll give you some funding, and we'll manufacture the CDs, we'll distribute them. So I kind of literally inherited this. I didn't plan on setting up a record label.
Yeah.
I just inherited it. I just looked at it like, here's pan-European physical distribution deal.
Right.
We'll do all your manufacturing for you. You don't have any costs. You just got to find the artist, the music.
Right.
Design the covers, pull it together,
A&R
it, and we'll put it out. So I was putting out all these CDs. It was going crazy. And
that's dope, man. That's a great position to be in, man. You got full creative control to kind of do what you love to do.
I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. From the business side.
But the thing is, this was just before downloading came into place. This is between 2000 and 2004.
Right.
Illegal downloads started coming in 2004, 2005.
Yeah, Napster and all that.
Mega uploads.
So the financial crisis, the global financial crisis, 2008, 2008. The global crisis in the music industry happened in 2004 when basically illegal digital downloading.
Mega upload,
and
albums.
The whole bottom of the traditional music industries we know fell out. And so I was putting out CDs. I'll give you an example. We did Osiris by Old Dirty Bastard.
Oh yeah.
So we signed, again, it was signed through like a Landspeed distribution affiliate in New York. By default, I had the European distribution rights for it. We had it manufactured, the cover was done. He was just about to sign to Rockefeller. In fact, that was one of the things I got from Biggs when Biggs came over to Dubai.
Right.
And we did the panel with him. He was talking about ODB, and Dame basically had signed ODB. I don't know whether the deal was done, but he was going to be a Rockefeller artist.
Yeah. Because he was on State Properties, the last album that they did, and he was on a few actually.
Yeah, for sure, that was going to drop. So we kind of had that mixtape album,
a
bit like the 50 Cent Guess Who's Back before Get Rich or Die Trying came out. We had Osiris just before his Rockefeller debut,
yeah.
And then he died I think just before Christmas. I think it was just before Christmas. I can't remember what year. Maybe it was 2000. I
think 2005, right? 4 or 5.
4 or 5, not far off that. Yeah. And of course, then the CD sales were insane, and that's when before illegal downloading came out.
Right.
But then I remember literally 6 months later, people started downloading, and you went from selling 50,000 copies of a CD with zero marketing spend, and the price per unit it was costing you like equivalent of, it's costing you equivalent of 5 dirhams to manufacture the CD, which is like a £1 equivalent, whatever,
right.
depending on the exchange rate.
Yeah.
And you were selling the CD for 20 dirhams, 25 dirhams.
Yeah.
The markup, the zero marketing spend.
Yeah.
And the distributor was taking their 20%. I was making the back end.
Yeah.
And every record we put out was like that. But then stupidly, you amassed all this money and then reinvested it in the next cool project. And then downloading came in. So they made all this money, then invested it in all this kind of cool, this cooler projects that I thought I'd love to put out. I found a brass band from New Orleans that did like Michael Jackson cover. I don't know, just weird stuff. I'm like, I really like it. I'm gonna put it out. Then you invest a certain amount of money in that, and then it flopped, and then illegal downloading came in. And then as much money as we made, it all disappeared as
Yeah.
So
that's the way it goes sometimes.
So when I say about the financial crisis, and that happened that was every record label. That wiped out.
Yeah, because nobody knew what they were going to do at that time, man.
It wiped out, I guess maybe 70% of the music industry at that time.
Yeah.
It was like, it was crazy. So anyway, I don't remember what the question was. I went off on a tangent again. But
no, you're good, man.
It might make for good listening.
You're good, man. So like hip hop memorabilia, man. Like I like I said, I had the pleasure of going to your house, man. I saw all the hip hop memorabilia. You have everything I think that hip hop ever produced in your home, man. Like how did that come about? And do you have any plans on like showcasing that to the world?
Maybe it will be like a museum,
Yeah, like a show museum. Yeah.
I mean, what I've got is kind of nothing compared to what some people have got. But I've been a real fan of hip hop music since day one. Since it came out, and when since I got into it, and when I got into it is when it was brand new and came out. So I've amassed records over the years. I've still got albums that I like. LL Cool J's first album, Radio.
Yeah.
The album that I've got at home is the one that came out in 1985. It's still the original pressing, and it's not in great shape. So I've kind of kept a lot of this stuff over the years. Magazines, I've always loved print media.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of the original Source magazines and Hip Hop Connection magazines and all those, I really always used to love, because before internet, you got information, consumed information about the music, about the scene.
Right.
I remember let me give you an example. Like Biggie gets shot.
Right, yeah.
This is before the internet.
Yeah, 96.
Yeah, it's before. I mean,
97, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Maybe it was just coming in. Maybe I think I had my first email address, in about 1990.
You're ahead of most of us, man.
Yeah. But these things happened before. So these are major events. In musical history, hip hop history, and everything. And you find out about them from when you buy the magazine on the shelf. There's no other way. I mean, there may be a news story, of course. With something.
But it was a real quick snippet at that point. It really wasn't.
And what happened? You shot Biggie. I don't know. I've got to wait for the magazine to come out in 4 weeks before I find out.
Right.
Even that time was also like some of the major exclusive interview that you need to wait for that magazine to get out to read the interview.
Yeah, man, and that was big. You wouldn't even know what albums were dropping until you got a magazine, and then you can see who's advertising for the album.
Yeah,
it was amazing how print media was the main player, and now how easily you can find out something just by a quick Google search.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. And you were mentioned Unsigned Hype before, and that's it's a really good point, because now I look into my old Source magazines, I've got the copy of the Source where Biggie was the Unsigned Hype.
Yeah. Oh man.
Where Nas was the Unsigned Hype.
Wow.
Where Mobb Deep was the Unsigned Hype. And they got signed basically. If you got your if your demo tape was listened to by the Source and you were in Unsigned Hype, that was a guaranteed record deal. Not only a guaranteed record deal, a lifelong career as a globally recognized recording artist.
Right.
Like from the Unsigned Hype, that demo, Nas is his old name, or Common, for example.
Yeah.
Common is like now a Hollywood actor and
everything, man.
Activist,
activist, poet. Who knows? He might go into politics, vegan.
This one, that demo tape into that magazine, that demo tape to that record label.
Yeah.
Suddenly your life's changed, and it's not only changes your life, the impact it has on everyone else's life. So I love coming back to the point about the memorabilia. I love to keep all that stuff because it's just good reference material.
Yeah.
I've thrown a lot of it out, but I still got promotional hats and promotional But these are things when these seminal albums came out, you know, when I was on radio especially, they'd send you the album, they'd send you a whole care package now. It's like the t-shirt, the hat, the stickers, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
And you know, if it was a good album and it was a classic, I'd kind of keep all that stuff. Some of the stuff was not really worth anything anymore. But I've also got rid of stuff that I wish I'd have kept. But thanks for recognising that. I'd love to show it off sometime and curate a little kind of exhibition. Maybe we can do it here in your space.
Let's put something together.
I think like before we wrap up this interview, we want to talk about the music scene here in Dubai. You know, I think you have very some knowledge about the music scene in the region. You know, and even like with the internet and everything, but still like you feel the music is it's growing. You know, but there is something missing in the market. So what is your opinion on the music scene, hip hop music scene in the region?
Specifically hip hop? I mean, I haven't really got my finger on the pulse that I know a lot of the artists, but I do know some of them, and I know that like anywhere, like anything, like where I came from in the UK, that fledgling scene where the first UK rappers came out, they were a joke. They weren't a joke to me, but they were perceived as being a joke because they didn't have American accents. You know, so. And it took many, many, many years before UK rap or grime or whatever you want to call it became a genre that was taken seriously and got radio play and TV support, video support, whatever. And so my view on it is, you know, hip hop is such a huge, powerful force to be reckoned with, and such an amazing, creative platform and music form is poetry. You know, it's poetry. And whether it's poetry in 1983. When the earliest kind of rap records came out, or even the late 70s, to Roddy Ricch, it's still poetry. And just the musical accompaniment and the musical backing and the production is just different. But it's poetry, and it always has been poetry to me, and it's an amazing art form. So it doesn't matter where you are, where you're from. It's now got so big that, you know, there will be an emerging scene somewhere in the world. Dubai is different, and I think, you know, I've been. From what I have seen and the people I have seen, been great. I mean, from the Recipe, they've been around a long time. They've been here before. You know, this kind of
10 years,
newer influx of creatives have come to the city. You know, they've been around, they've been grinding, they've been based here with families and whatever. And I see people like them as the forefathers. But there's some great new emerging artists. And you know, Berto, we kind of set up this kind of hip hop forum, hip hop exchange, where we kind of brought artists together and DJs and whatever. I feel bad because I kind of stepped out.
No, don't trust me.
But what I really like is that we've still got this WhatsApp group.
Right.
And every day I'm seeing messages, someone's talking, and I'm like, well, these people wouldn't have been talking if we kind of didn't set that up. And it was quite just, even if it just got a few conversations going, and even off that, I booked like Naya, was it? Nia. I booked Nia for a show, and I wouldn't have even heard of her, and she thought she was a great artist, you know. And it does take collaboration. It does take community. You need to support each other. There's no shortage of resources now. There are record labels here, and there are studios, and and everyone has the internet. So it doesn't matter where you're from. You know, if you're talented, you can get your music heard. I think that now there are platforms for people to perform and do shows. I mean, I book a lot of shows in Dubai, and if I can put more rappers and local rappers on the support acts, I would. The other day I had Lewis Capaldi, huge artist. I put a local singer, songwriter, guitarist to support. Greg Pearson. You know, I called him. He admitted to me afterwards, man, when you called me and asked me to support Lewis Capaldi, I was screaming for like 10 minutes.
See, that's dope, man.
So whether it's like an underground hip hop scene or any up and coming musician. I mean, I had I've worked closely with Holophonic, and they're more of a dance music outfit. But still, great guys, very talented, and I've kind of. It's quite interesting seeing how they've forged a career. Now they're on a global platform now. They're now being flown to America to record by Spotify to record like music for Spotify because they have a remit to kind of help local artists to a certain degree. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe that's secret. But
maybe we can.
I'm sorry.
Exclusive. You can see it.
It's coming.
Just
to go from guys who I met from coming to Dubai, meeting them backstage. They were in regular day jobs. They love music. Greg from the group was a radio presenter. So he was fairly established. He was also a club DJ. Ollie kind of wasn't, but they came and they formed this group. And their route to the market, like back, traditionally you would, you get signed to a record label. What we did, and what we did collaboratively, and what they did, more to the point, was they found different routes to the market. For example, we signed to Universal. We signed to EMI.
Yeah.
EMI then got taken by
Acquired by Universal, yeah.
Now that was just a strategic move, just
Yes.
so we could say, look, we're in Dubai. No one cares about us in Dubai.
Right.
But because we're signed to Universal, we're Universal recording artists.
Yeah.
Right.
Through that, part of Universal's remit was because there's no collection societies here, you can't get any money from publishing, and before there's no performing rights societies here.
Yeah.
So companies like Emirates or ARN or whatever, basically for years they've been playing music.
Yeah.
Right.
Other people's copyright for free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like for example, Emirates were like, okay, Universal and Sony, we're playing a lot of your music, we're showing movies, we're not really paying for any of this, we probably should, so what can we do to support?
Yeah.
And Universal were like, well, I'll tell you what, you can take one of our locally signed recording artists and give them a platform, and then before you know it, when you get on an Emirates plane and you're in the cabin music, it's holophonic.
Yeah.
When you look at the screen and you've got the whole the safety video and the kind of buy duty free, the music in the backdrop is holophonic, and it says the logo at the end.
Yeah.
Wow, that's like bigger than most recording artists globally. There's millions of people
True.
seeing and hearing their music.
Yeah.
And you just gotta, because we're in a different market where there's no radio play for local artists. I mean, you've got Dance FM, which I'm sure are playing a couple of local dance producers.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like Virgin or Dubai 92 or
It's very strict,
Radio
still like
10.
strict.
Yeah.
No one's playing any of
Yeah.
those music.
It's just
But
top 40.
But at one point they were playing holophonic. Holophonic was a
Yeah.
big, they really broke through because their first single that they put out through Universal was like a slam dunk radio hit.
Yeah.
It was getting played as a big hit. Their support waned after a while, which is a shame. But really, artists, there should be more of a specialist music outlet.
Yeah.
I did a specialist rap radio show. Basically, the All City show was an indie music station.
Yes, of
it was
course.
like on a guitar music station.
Yeah.
We did the only kind of remotely urban hip hop show like on that station. But at least there was an outlet. There's no specialist radio here. If there was specialist radio, I think it would, because radio is king kind of still in Dubai.
Still, yeah.
Your car is your second home. You listen to the radio. It's a lot of it's top 40, but radio is still, there's no digital radio in cars here yet.
There is no like local media supporting hip hop music to be played
Right.
on the radio station or TV and everything. But there is like a really very important point, which is like, do you think hip hop is really like not being recognized yet by local media, or you think it is just bringing like controversy to itself because of violence or like the topic of the music? What's your opinion on that matter?
I mean, look, you look at the Formula One in Abu Dhabi.
Right.
I mean, Travis Scott pulled out, but
Yeah.
Travis Scott, they've got Post Malone, they've had Eminem. It's not like there isn't an awareness. It's not like these guys are not global superstars. And
Yeah, they are.
Eminem's not like exactly
the top selling artist, period.
clean cut.
Yeah.
Migos too, they had.
Migos,
basically.
yeah. So it's not like hip hop and rap is huge here. People know what it is. They play it on the radio.
Yeah.
Even Stormzy, like a UK grime artist, is one of the headliners at Redfest here.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, you told us also about the events you did it last time, and Dubai Mall was crazy. A lot of people come to attend this show, and the artist is like.
There's awareness of people know. It's a huge genre. I think honestly, it's a little bit of more can be done by the local media companies to shine a light on the genre.
Yeah.
There is the talent here. Like there's great singer-songwriters, there's great electronic producers. Like Holophonic have just smashed the doors down by hook or by crook. Got on the radio, got signed to a label.
Right.
Now in with Spotify. There's some Red Bull. I tell you, Red Bull supported Holophonic massively. Red Bull. You've got to give credit to Red Bull, because what Red Bull did is they were like, well, they have
Music Academy,
they have this music academy, but Red Bull in the UAE, they've obviously music is big for them, so they sponsor music events.
They have a whole department.
So they said, well, we want to do a documentary on a local.
We watched the documentary in the Red Bull collaboration. Yeah.
So we went to
Japan also.
They did Japan. Before that, we went to London. So we went to Red Bull Studios in London.
Yeah.
We recorded for 4 or 5 days. A lot of those tracks kind of went on the album, but one track, Spaceship, it was the last song we recorded by a producer that I kind of. A vocalist called Barbara, who I found for a mutual friend of mine. It was the last session. We recorded that record. That record became a hit in Thailand.
Oh, really? Wow.
Like a proper bona fide
See that global
smash hit. And again, coming back to the original point, coming back to the point we touched on before, through playlists.
Right.
So the equivalent of in Thailand is called Joox, Joox.
Yes.
I'd never heard of
It's
it.
like the Spotify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sony here had never heard of it. No one had heard of it.
Right.
If you're in Thailand, you know Joox.
Yeah.
There's no Spotify. There's no Apple. It's Joox.
So that DSP
we
is
never heard of
still
it.
that.
Yeah. Exactly. So basically, one of the dudes, one of the playlist curators, heard Spaceship. I don't know how. I don't know how.
Maybe through his travels, man.
Yeah.
On Emirates.
Even Sony admitted, I don't think we even service them. We don't even know who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they heard the record and they broke the record. And in fact, no, he didn't get picked up. But the guy, the playlist guy at Jukes was like, I really, really like this record.
Right.
Tried it on one playlist, didn't work. Tried it on another. Then he put it on this karaoke playlist, and I guess karaoke's big.
Yeah,
it's big.
It's built in South
So
Asia.
I guess the way they consume music, they have a video and it's got the karaoke.
Right.
The karaoke version of Spaceship became the hit. Then it became a radio hit. Then it became a huge streaming hit. It was selling millions and millions. Then we got invited to headline one of the biggest festivals curated by Jukes, which is pretty much all the biggest artists.
Yeah.
It's like having a Spotify festival or an Apple festival is all the biggest. And then we were one of the headliners, and then collaborating with like Thai artists, and now they get invited back regularly to write and collaborate with artists out there.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the craziest thing. And then I was on a plane. I was on an Emirates flight a few weeks ago, and I'm kind of sat in the cabin. And I'm hearing this record on the radio. Oh, I like this. It's cool.
Yeah.
It was Spaceship. And I said, and I never knew, even though they've done the music for the Emirates video,
Right.
which is cool. 'Cause it's got the logo on it. It says Universal Music, and
Right.
it's cool. It's quite. No one would, it's a cool thing to do. But I didn't know the music was played in the cabins.
Right.
They play like a ton of other sort of famous songs. I texted on it and said, since when has holophonic actually played in this sort of boarding music in the cabin? And it's kind of one of those really proud moments, and they're a local artist.
Yeah.
They're from the UK. They've been here for many years. Working day jobs, carving their own little niche, and suddenly, and so my message is, whoever you are, locally, the platform, even if there isn't the radio support, even if there aren't collection societies, so you're missing a big chunk of your income as an artist, even if whatever the obstacles, you got to find your route.
Yeah. You gotta find
And the good thing about Dubai in this region is it's like no others in the world. You get a headline slot, you be a local artist supporting a global superstar like Lewis Capaldi.
Yeah.
There aren't many singer-songwriters here. There's maybe like 5 or 6 like that. Putting out music, and they're on the kind of commercial circuit, they're on the kind of corporate circuit, they're maybe in hotel lobbies on the Palm, or they maybe and then suddenly they get that break, and then you kind of, but like I say, Dubai for everyone on a business level, on a personal level, people come here because there is opportunity here, and it may not be the traditional opportunities and the routes to market for artists that we're having with more mature markets like America or anywhere in the world, but this is a place where you can be resourceful and find a way, because people are here to progress and advance themselves. They may have been born here, or they may have come here through with families, or I came here to set up a business. But this is a place where the sky's the limit, and my message is, no matter what music you do, you have the resources here to achieve your goals. Just got to be smart, resourceful, and persistent. That's the key to it.
So thank you, Dan, for sharing your story with us. It was really very
it's inspiring, and we learned a lot, man. We learned a lot about you, and then as well as the scene, man. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. I always feel, I've got nothing to say. But when you extract the stories from me, I'm like, I forgot I did that. That's cool.
Nah, it was dope though, man. Salute, man. We appreciate you being on there live in Dubai.
And big up you guys. You've got a great space here. You're doing great things. You're supporting the local scene. You're supporting you've come here. And you're trying to make your mark as well. And it's great. Good for you guys. Keep it moving.
So stay tuned for more interview on VVIP, and sign up to our social medias on VVIP, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for watching us.